Welcome to Module 3, Part 3. In this part, I will go over a few issues with the front vowels in English. Make sure to read the book carefully as well as the notes because I won't be going over every detail that you're expected to know from the slides and from the textbook. Remember also that you will need to memorize all of the distinctive features for the English vowels for the exam. We will start with the high front vowels. The high front vowels are the vowels E as in bead and I as in bid. As I mentioned earlier, the I vowel as in bid is the one that you will use to transcribe the rhotic diphthong in words such as here, near, and fear. You may feel that this vowel is more like the E and bead, but the two vowels are not distinctive in this context. Instead, the I vowel will be used in words like hearing and earring, and the E will be used in transcription of words like key ring, where the R consonant is in the onset of the next syllable. Can you hear the difference? Hearing versus key ring. Also, notice that some dialects do not make a distinction between the I as in bid and E as in bed vowels before the nasal consonant N. So for these talkers, the words pin and pen will both be pronounced as pin with the I vowel. So for these talkers, you put a pin on your shirt and you write with a pin. In addition, the I vowel, as in bid, is often used in unstressed syllables at the ends of words that end in Y or LY, such as pretty or lovely. Your bias is probably to hear the E vowel in these contexts, but the vowel that is produced tends to be much shorter and more lax than a true E vowel. Let's talk more about the ear vowel. It's true that the first part of this rhotic diphthong that occurs in words like here is not exactly the same as the I vowel in bid. It might sound more like E to you. Nevertheless, you should consider the first part of the rhotic diphthong in words like here and beer to be an allophone of the I vowel. In truth, the real pronunciation of this vowel might be somewhere in between the E and I vowels, but this transcription choice is a convention that is agreed upon by many phoneticians. Furthermore, in some transcription systems, the schwa R sound is used rather than the R in transcribing the rhotic diphthongs. In this case, you need a way of distinguishing between the one and two syllable versions, such as seer, S-E-R-E, meaning dry, and seer, a two-syllable word, meaning someone who can predict the future. Let's talk more about the unstressed vowel that occurs at the ends of words such as pretty. It's true that the final sound in the unstressed syllables at the end of words like pretty and lonely is not exactly the same sound as the I and bid. In quality, it is usually somewhere between the two for most talkers, but in terms of duration, it is probably more like I. I'll say it with the syllables separated and maybe you can hear the difference. Pretty, pretty, E. Like that. Let's try this. Here is the word pretty with a true E at the end versus the more typical pronunciation of the vowel. Pretty versus pretty. When I say the second vowel in pretty in a normal, not exaggerated way, my lips are more relaxed, like for the I sound, than spread like they would be for the E sound. Listen again. Pretty with E versus pretty with my lips more relaxed, more like for the I sound. There is a symbol in the International Phonetic Alphabet called barred I that represents a sound that is probably similar to the unstressed vowel at the end of words like pretty for many talkers. But using that symbol would require learning yet another symbol, and that vowel would still be an allophone of either the E or the I vowel in English, and therefore would not really be appropriate for broad transcription. Not all transcribers use the convention of using the I for the unstressed Y at the end of words. But your textbook does, and we will follow this convention for this class. When transcribing, you will probably be biased towards hearing E at the ends of words such as this. Try to work against your bias and listen objectively. The correct answer key for the homework will reflect the transcription that I think is more accurate, with either E or I being accepted when I think it is hard to tell the difference. For example, if I thought the person said the word more like pretty, then I would put the E at the end. If I thought it was more like pretty, I would put the I at the end. And if I found it hard to tell the difference, then I would allow you to transcribe it either way. On this recording, I separated out the syllables in a couple of examples so that maybe you can hear the final sounds in the words being somewhere between the E and I vowels. Listen.
Misty, misty, misty.
I'm going to play the first vowel and then the second vowel.
Misty.
Here's the word lychee.
Lychee.
The first vowel, then the second vowel.
Lychee, lychee.
The first vowel is E, but the second vowel is kind of between E and I. This slide shows an MRI image of a speaker producing the vowel E as in bead. Notice how the body of the tongue is pulled up and forward toward the alveolar ridge so that the oral cavity is narrow here and the pharyngeal cavity is much wider, as we discussed earlier. You should be able to recognize the vowels E, A, and U, as in feed, father, and food, from the MRI images shown in these notes or from the mid-sagittal images shown in your book. Pause the recording here and complete exercises 4.1 and 4.2 before continuing. Check your answers in the back of the book to make sure that you understand. And if you still need to clear up mistakes, review the reading or the preceding recording or post a question on the discussion board. Next are the mid-front vowels. They are the vowels A as in bake and E as in bed. Remember that we will not transcribe differently the stressed and unstressed versions of the A vowel until later, even though your textbook says to do so. Remember that the E vowel is used in transcription of the rhotic air diphthong, like in the words pear and bear, even though the diphthong-like production may make you feel like you hear the A vowel in this context. The A vowel will be used in the transcription of two-syllable words, like layer. Listen to the difference. Layer versus layer. Let's talk a little more about A versus E in the R context. The first part of the vowel in hair is not exactly the same as the E vowel in bed. Sometimes it does sound more like A, but the transcription of this vowel, like with ear, is an agreed upon convention accepted by many phoneticians. We can consider the first part of the air diphthong to be an allophone of E. Pause the recording here and complete exercises 4.3 and 4.4 before continuing. Check your answers in the back of the book to make sure you understand, and if you still need to correct some mistakes or clear up some misunderstanding, review the reading or the preceding recording or post a question on the discussion board. There is one low front vowel, the A vowel, as in the word bad. Its symbol is called ash. Again, because the quality of vowels can change before nasal consonants, it might be difficult to decide if you hear the A vowel or the E vowel before the ng sound or other nasal sounds. Most of the time in ANG or ANK words, the word is produced with the A vowel, but not always. For example, do you pronounce the word hanger as hanger or hanger? I feel like I can pronounce it either way depending on the mood or the context. Listen again. Hanger or hanger. Listen to the pronunciation of the following words and notice the transcription that I've provided for the vowels.
bane, ben, ban, bang, bang.
Pause the recording here and complete exercise 4.5 before continuing. Check your answers in the back of the book to make sure you understood. And if you still need to correct some mistakes or clear up some misunderstanding, review the reading in the textbook or the previous recording, or post a question on the discussion board. This is the end of Module 3, Part 3.